Hi, everybody. It's Marjorie Waldo at Arts Garage, and today I'm a lucky woman because I am talking to Hector Anchondo. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
We are super excited about your show, which is November 15th at 8 p.m. We're really excited to have you here. You are incredibly well known for the work that you've done in the music world, and you do this full time. This is your living, right?
Yep, it's full time, my living, and I really have, everything in my life revolves around, my love of music and the craft and it all for me.
You've
It's my
you've been
passion.
playing guitar since you were 16.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So, what made you want to pick it up?
you know, uh I always enjoyed music, and I would find myself listening very, very closely to songs and trying to figure them out before I even played an instrument. And it was so we didn't have cable TV growing up. Occasionally we had one of those old school satellite dishes that looked like you were trying to make first contact. Um, and but it was the area we lived was really prone for lightning storms, so it would be a month, 2 months before we get struck down by lightning. So we only got it fixed a couple times, and then just it was a waiting game. So one of the times it was working, uh, I'd always be dialed into the music the music televisions, channels, and I was watching. It was a Guns N' Roses November Rain, and Slash, the lead guitarist, was playing his guitar work is very beautiful in that song. And I'm listening to that, I just got caught up in his guitar solo, and I'm like, yeah, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I was like, this is what I want to do. and and from that day on, that's all I've done is practice and learn and push myself farther and as hard as I can to see, to not only see what I can do, but to make, to make people happy, with the music.
It's one of the things I wanted to ask was what kind of vibe do you want your fans to get from you? So I know that you play the slide guitar too, not, you do that as well. And
Uh-huh.
your marketing document says that you don't just play the blues, that you live and breathe it. So when you're performing, and your show here is going to be a blues show, when you're performing one of your shows, what is it that you want the audience to get out of that moment, out of that performance?
I'd say the thing that I shoot for the most in the live shows is I want folks to forget where they're at. I want them to not only forget where they're at, but forget about all the stuff that's happening, all the stuff that we're going through together. I want, I'd love for, even if for just a moment, just completely forget where they're at and become suspended in that moment, with the band and I, and together. And that's what I would, and aside from that, that's my main goal. But aside from that, I just, want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're an incredible musician, and lots of people have recognized that. So you're endorsed by Delaney Guitars and by GHS Strings. You won the 2020 International Blues Challenge for first place in a solo duo group. You won the International Blues Challenge for the Memphis Cigar Box Award.
Yeah, I'm just mind blown about.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've won awards: Best Blues Band of the Year, Nebraska State Blues Challenge, International Blues Challenge in Memphis. I mean, you've been winning awards for a long time now, 7 or 8 years. So you've put in the work. I was talking with another group about how some people say you're an overnight success, and it's never really an overnight success. You've been grinding
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, and it was, I had this moment when, when they called my name in January of this year of 2020, when they called my name as the first place winner in the solo duo category, I I was like, I looked back on, the past 24 years of my career, and I'm like, this is I thought to myself, I'm like, this is my moment where you know you know it's like that. Oh, I'm like drawing a blank.
Well, it's like that
It's the
moment when,
overnight success. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like fine. Finally, I've reached that point in my career where it's like a big moment and a game changing moment. You
but
know.
did you have a flash in that moment of you say you were thinking about your whole career in that moment. So, you sort of can see a fast motion reel in your mind of different, how hard you've worked to achieve the goal, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
fast. It's
Yeah.
a lot of time to be able to do that. You know,
Yeah.
no, go ahead. I'm so
I
sorry.
was just thinking. Another thing I thought in that moment was, this is why I never gave up. You know, for that moment, I was like, this is why I never gave up to get here right now. And to win that blues challenge, the international blues challenge. I was like, this made it worth all the sleeping on couches and not having a place to live. Pretty much living in the van, just on tour nonstop. Not making any money for the first 10 years of my career. Just breaking even or going into the hole and having credit card debt. And just like, this is why it was worth it. Everything's worth it.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer than most people think. And most people who are sitting in the audience, I was included in that group until I took over at Arts Garage and began to understand what was really happening for the performers and for the venues. Most people sitting in the audience have no concept of how hard you have to work just to put food on the table,
Yeah.
to negotiate fees with the venues that allow you to move forward. Venues are constantly trying to negotiate the price lower, and I'm guilty. As much as I want to honor the craft, I'm a small nonprofit, so it's a hard thing to be able to
Yeah.
support yourself and your family
Uh-huh.
playing music. So it's wonderful when you get recognition, and it's wonderful for us to be able to showcase you, because we really admire the work that our performers put into the craft, and we know that it's not an overnight success, and we know how much you grind, and it's a pleasure for us to be able to help celebrate you. It's really cool. I want to talk
Thank you. I
about,
feel lucky to be here.
yeah, I'm glad. I want to talk about two more things. One, I think it's really interesting, and you mentioned it in your marketing document, that your Latin background like adds some layers to the genre of blues for you. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Okay, so it definitely adds layers to my playing, and you can hear, it's like, seasoned in there, I think about uh food and music in a similar way, and the first music I ever heard when I was little was Latino music. And that was probably the only music I heard until I was 5 or 6 years old. And so my early memories are of that. And it's just there, it's just embedded in. And when I play guitar, you can hear it here and there. And the before my early years of playing music was a lot more Latin influenced. And when I switched, it was about in 2009, I decided to switch to predominantly blues, and to become a blues artist. And I still play around with different genres sometimes, kind of to intertwine it, for
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know um yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah,
Well, but
I just still try to infuse it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's gonna, so we believe that so our vision statement is connecting our community to the world through the arts. And what I truly believe is that when you or anyone else is on my stage or in my gallery on the walls as a visual artist, when we look at your art form or listen to your art form, we're learning about you. We learn about your experiences, your cultural heritage, your story, your
Yeah, every day in the life,
yeah. So
from
I think
beginning to now, you know, that's what you
and
hear in
we
the music.
are our backgrounds. We are the
Yeah,
history of ourselves. So whoever we are today is composed of. So I think it made total sense. I think it makes total sense.
awesome.
Um, I want to ask before I want to ask you about your music festival, but I also want to ask about your influences in general. Who were the blues artists that you would say influenced your writing and performing the most?
Yeah, I'd say in the beginning, I'm influenced by everything. I have to say right away. But in the beginning, it was Jimi Hendrix. Any of the blues stuff Jimi Hendrix did, I was in love with, and I still love it. And um, and uh, and then from Jimi Hendrix, it was I really got into John Lee Hooker, and then Stevie Ray Vaughan,
The
and
classics. Those are the
yeah,
classics.
yeah, I just got really into that stuff, and um, I listened. I've never been the player to try to play things verbatim, um, and and if I did sit down and try to play things note for note, it was something. It was more melody based on something but what I would do is I would listen very, very close to these different artists, and I would listen constantly, and I would try to find the unique characteristics that really made them them. Because what I wanted to do is understand what made them unique. Because my goal as a musician in general is I wanted to eventually have my own voice one day, and when folks heard me play, you know, heard the music, they'd be like, that has to be Hector playing, and that, so I would listen really close in that manner, to try
That's
to,
really interesting. So
you
it
know,
wasn't just an influence, you like learned. You used their iconic sounds, if you will, to sort
mhm.
of help you figure out how to develop your own iconic sound.
Yeah. And also, yes, totally. And I also want to know another reason why I want to know exactly what made them them, or like the strongest points of their characteristics in their
Hmm.
playing, is to make sure I didn't want to take on too much of some one person's characteristic. So there's another reason why I wanted to know exactly what made them them, so I could kind of like, pay homage to their style in certain ways, but try to avoid like their main characteristic points.
Yeah, you don't
You
want to
know,
just be an imitator. You're
exactly.
slashing out on your own. All right, so I want to ask you one more quick question. I want you to talk about the In the Market for Blues Festival that you started in 2015 in Omaha, right?
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So in I was lucky enough to get to go to the International Blues Challenge for the first time in 2015. And when I was down there, I noticed that Beale Street looked a lot like the old market, in Omaha. And just all those towns off of the Missouri River and the Mississippi, that era, is all around the same time. So I thought, I was like, the old market, it'd be perfect to have a blues festival there, and to try to bring a little piece of, Beale Street vibe, flavor, and Bourbon Street and that kind of thing to Omaha. And I was like, it'd be perfect. And so I spoke with a friend of mine, Emily Cox, and she's really talented in many different ways, but especially, um, organizing. She's like, I had the idea, but I knew that she could make it a reality. She loved the idea, and together we got it started. The first year, I think it was later that year in 2015 was the first year. We just it was two venues, and I think we had six bands. And the next year was three venues, and then I think four or
Ah,
five venues, and
so is it a
yeah.
one-day festival or a weekend festival?
In the beginning, it was just a 1 day festival, and it still technically is a 1 day festival, but it's organically evolving into 2 days, because the last year, we unfortunately didn't get to have it this year. But so last year when we did it, So we had the official festival on Saturday, but there was already shows happening on the night before just because artists were in town, you know, and I would play Friday and Saturday night. So it's turning into a multiple day event.
That's fantastic. That's really cool. Really cool. So
Yeah.
you're an influencer now. You're not only growing your own thing, but you're influencing your community. It's a really cool thing to give them that gift.
Yeah, I feel lucky to be part of it. And I have to give all the credit to Emily Cox and the Blue Society of Omaha because, you know, they do all the work, and I just try to do what I can because I am also touring and trying to
Yeah,
keep my band
exactly.
rolling and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hector, it was so nice to get to know you a little bit. We're very excited about your show. Again, it's November 15th at 8 p.m. You can attend live in a safely distanced, masked environment. Um, and it's at 8 p.m. November 15th. You can also buy a live stream ticket. That's what I forgot to say. So I hope that everybody gets to see you. Your music is exceptional, and I'm
Thank
really
you.
looking forward to the show.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well. And thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for taking the time today with me.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.